What is good, boys? We are back with the Combat BS show. We're gonna be breaking down UFC Actually, sorry, recapping UFC Seattle. What a fucking card that was. Excuse my language. 9 finishes on this card, an incredible performance overall. From a lot of different fighters. We'll touch on all of them, and we'll look ahead to UFC Apex card. Hanato Moicano and Chris Duncan going at it. So yeah, let's get right to it. I'm gonna first of all, I know this is not that important, but I'm gonna call this out because this is bothering me. Like my girlfriend and I were both excited to check out the merchandise that they were gonna release for this UFC 250 thing whenever they said it on the broadcast. And it's just fighter merch from every fighter on the like, bro, where if you're gonna talk about UFC 350 or 250 merch, why are we not doing like custom merch for like what? Anyway, moving moving along. I just thought that was so dumb. Like, what are we doing? Anyway, let's start at the bottom. Alexia Thainara, I had her winning on points. Um, she dominated this fight. It was never close. Bruno Brazil, I knew with that backing up, kind of point fighting, kickboxing style, that it wasn't going to be good for her because Thainara is really strong in the clinch, great on the ground, and this throws heavier shots. And I just didn't think Thainara was going to have much of a chance of losing unless she got caught with like a head kick. And she even ate like a knee to the head or kick to the head, like right at the end of the fight. Um, and no big deal. So Thainara with a great performance. Glad I was on that side of things with the points. I think it was with points. I think it was around like minus 200. So not bad. Ricky Simone and Adrian Yanez. I had Ricky Simone winning this fight, and I don't know how he got fortunate enough to get a draw. Like Adrian Yanez, I thought won the first round. The second round, you could say, like, yeah, obviously, it felt like more Simone's round. And then round three, Yanez nearly finished Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone barely knew who he was at the end of the fight. That's a 10-8 round. I don't know how he doesn't win 3-1, but like just because of the it being a 10-8, like give him a 2 point advantage there first round. But no, all three judges gave the first round to Ricky Simone. It didn't feel that way to me, but I wasn't there live, so like whatever. But it look, I mean, I feel like on TV you have a better view because you can miss some things in the cage with them being in the corners and whatnot. Anyway, I don't know how Yanez didn't win the fight. Whatever. I think the UFC will treat it like he won the fight and match him accordingly. Navajo Sterling. Just put it on Bruno Brazil. Or sorry, Bruno Lopez. Bruno Brazil. Anyway, Navajo Sterling just dominated this fight. The first round was not particularly close. Bruno Brazil's corner Lopez, sorry. Bruno Lopez's corner was telling him after the first round, like, oh, it was close, but I feel like he won that. It's like, don't lie to him. Just tell him you got outstruck that round. Like he landed the bigger shots. Like, I don't know how you can be biased in a corner when you need to be giving the fighter unbiased information and like just straight to the point facts. Maybe Bruno Lopez is really bad at fighting when he loses the first round. Maybe he's nervous, so maybe they're just telling him what he needs to hear. But I don't like it as a fan and as somebody who wants to know the truth of in every situation in life. It just feels odd to ever get this, you might have won that round. Like, no, don't lie to him. Just tell him you lost that round. And second round, he goes out there, gets hurt with a right hand. Navajo Sterling I mean, you could have stopped this fight a whole minute before it got stopped. Lopez had nothing for Navajo. He was just getting ground and pounded for forever. Looked like roadkill at the end. Great performance from Navajo Sterling. He had been in the UFC for a while and had not gotten a finish, and he'd been pretty. He always looked better than his opponent, but he never was doing anything extraordinary. So really good for him to get that finish. All right, Casey O'Neill back after a long break, and Gabriela Fernandez. Had a few good wins here and there. I picked Gabrielle Fernandez. I didn't know much about Casey O'Neill, admittedly. I think I'd only seen her fight once. Yeah, my bad, Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill with an absolutely outstanding KO. She was just kind of trying to draw her in, and as soon as she was able to land a flush punch, Gabrielle wobbled and like kind of backed up all the way and then fell against the cage. And Casey O'Neill had perfect killer instinct. She went in there to finish her. Like as soon as there was an opportunity against the cage and Gabrielle had nowhere to go, she threw like 8 or 9 straight punches, wobbled her, kind of like made her collapse a little bit against the cage. She stood back up and then 2 or 3 more punches, and Gabrielle Fernandez fell unconscious. So I mean, couldn't draw it up much better than that for Casey O'Neill. Phenomenal performance from her. Marcin Tybura and Tyrell Fortune. Really nothing to talk about here other than the fact that they announced the wrong winner at first. Marcin Tybura did not win the fight, didn't win a round, in my opinion. Fortune was just on the gas all night, and Tybura just seemed stuck in mud and didn't really know what to do to handle himself. He obviously like had more strikes, but was getting controlled throughout. You could say Tybura won round 3, but rounds 1 and 2 were obviously in favor of see. But they were obviously in favor of Tyrell Fortune. So overall, good performance from Tyrell Fortune, but he's got to find a way to become a little bit better striker if he wants to be elite at heavyweight. That was only a top 8 guy. Tybor is a tough. He's 40 now, so he's not as tough, but he's still a tough guy to beat at heavyweight. So, good on him. Chase Hooper, Lance Gibson Jr. I thought Chase Hooper would eventually find a way to get this into a clinch position where you could kind of jump something and go for a submission. And Lance Gibson Jr. proved me wrong there. He was able to get out of every clinch situation. And even in a clinch situation, he found a short elbow to kind of stumble Chase Hooper and then kick 2 kicks twice. Chase is kind of not really there, kind of defending a little bit. And then Chase eats a big, I think it was a knee, and then another knee, and then the refs tried to separate him because it was only going to get worse. In all reality, there was no way Chase would have to find a way to roll a leg while struggling to stay conscious. So all credit to Lance Gibson Jr. deserves the KO win there, and cool that he's the first father-son duo to ever get wins in the UFC. Okay, this fight irritated the hell out of me, and I don't know how Ignacio Bahamondes didn't get points taken away from his opponent in order to help him on the scorecards, because Ignacio Bahamondes in the first round, it was kind of close. Let's take a look. I can't even remember. It was so much happened after that just pissed me off. Yeah, pretty close. You could probably side with Musayev. You could give it to Ignacio if you thought he landed the heavier shots, whatever. Anyway, that's not the point here. In round 2, Ignacio Bahamondes starts the round with a big knockdown. Musayev's wobbled. He's hurt. Lands a little bit of ground and pound, and Musayev climbs the cage. He literally grabs the cage with both hands, gets up. Ignacio Bahamondes is trying to put him back down in order to ground and pound him some more. Goes to pull him away and throw him down, and Musayev grabs the cage and pulls himself back to the cage. And then Musayev finds a way on top on the ground. And Musayev headbutts him, and that probably didn't help the cut that Ignacio had just gotten. Ignacio's painted in blood the rest of the round, loses round 2, just eats a bunch of big shots. Throws up some sub attempts, but whatever. And then in round 3, Musayev's dominating from top, and then about a minute to go, Ignacio reverses him. Ignacio finds the back. Ignacio's trying to lock in a choke, and Musayev bites him. And there's no repercussions for any of those actions. The referee's on the wrong side of the cage grab, doesn't see it enough, and probably says some warning or something. On the wrong side in order to see the headbutt, on the wrong side in order to see the bite. It's like, what are we doing? Get in a good position. Like, this is insane. This is this guy's career. This is this guy's health. And he's about to finish this dude, and you just cannot allow a guy to grab the cage like that. It's insane. I just don't know how us as UFC fans are expected to take Musayev seriously as a contender when he's allowed to climb the cage hurt and hold on to the cage to prevent a takedown and use that in order to get back up, and then headbutt his opponent when he's cut on the head, and then bite his arm when he's trying to choke him out with 30 seconds left, trying to save the fight. It makes no sense that there's no repercussions for any of that, and it's just so beyond irritating to watch because Nacho's a guy who is an elite lightweight. He is a guy who should be in the rankings. He falls out of the rankings then because of the fight with Fiziev, even though Fiziev's in the rankings. And then Musayev just gets an opportunity against Bahamondes out of nowhere, and Nacho just gets screwed. And now where does he go? He's probably got to fight 2 or 3 other fights outside of the rankings. Then he'll get another shot at the rankings. And then for what? For what? Musayev cheated the whole fight. It makes no sense. I just am a huge fan of Nacho, and it's beyond Lahala, Nacho, Ignacio, Bahamondes, whatever you want to call him. I'm such a massive fan of his fight style, his fight IQ. It just sucks to watch a guy get cheated, and in every fight, but especially when you like the guy. So really feel bad for him. Glad he got the fight of the night bonus. Moving on. All right, Terrence McKinney, Kyle Nelson. This fight went exactly how everybody expected it. Terrence McKinney to march somebody down, find a shot that kind of stumbles him. He lands a 1-2 as he gets his leg kicked out. Kyle Nelson didn't seem to love it. Throws a head kick, or maybe it was a body shot and then a head kick. So the body shot kind of didn't feel great, and then he throws a head kick on the arms, but it knocks Kyle Nelson down, and then he just finds ground and pound, and Kyle Nelson can't react because he's eating boom, 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 boom. So he's just having to do this to try to like bide time, and it's lasting too long. The referee has to stop it. It's a great stoppage. I mean, Kyle Nelson needs to move there, and if he didn't feel comfortable doing so because of the amount of ground and pound coming, then that's is what it is. Um, Moving on though, I did have a substantial wager on this and this together, and a substantial wager on this that paid me pretty well. So I was happy with that. I didn't put those in the bet slip. I try to keep my bet slip to a bare minimum in order to show you guys I don't have the massive funds that a lot of people have that do betting shows, but I do respect the dollar and I do respect you guys who just want to bet a little bit for fun. So I'm trying to show you guys how to do that in order to profit slightly. Mansur Abdul Malik versus Yusri Belgari. I don't know how Belgari was not the favorite in this fight. I knew it from the start of the fight. I told a few of my buddies I was saying it's very possible that he gets KO'd in this fight. Um, I think last week, whenever I did the episode, I didn't really have a pick for this fight. I didn't know enough. I did some research midweek. I found out he was living in Danbury, Connecticut, and training with Alex Pereira. They said that on the broadcast too, in case you guys weren't watching. Um, I went back and watched a few of his glory fights, and I was like, "This is just." I mean, I didn't give a pick for this fight because I hadn't had time to do my research. I'd been sick and in and out of the hospital and dealing with that stuff. But Yusri Belgari looked incredible on the feet. Dangerous in the clinch, dangerous at distance because he's so big for 185. And Mansour Abdul Ali took him down a few times, but excuse me, hold on. Sorry, my throat is dry. Belgari just has such good takedown defense and takedown escapability. He pushes your head down right away and just yanks his legs out. And as soon as he has a frame to stand up with, he's just very difficult to deal with for 185ers. I would expect Belgari's next fight to be for a ranking because this dude, or just outside the rankings, this guy is a dangerous fighter, super entertaining to watch in the clinch and at distance. And I don't see a guy who's going to be able to dominate him other than like an elite grappler, like Fluffy might be able to get in against him, but his knees are dangerous. Like an obviously like a Hamzat Chimaev, but there's other guys at 185 who might have a chance of grappling him, but he's gonna be tough to beat on the feet. I'll put it that way. All right, my favorite fighter on this card that's up and coming, Loran Douglas, Julian Erosa. This fight was so fun. I had Loran Douglas KO parlayed with Terrence McKinney under 1.5 rounds. Easiest parlay of my life. Loran Douglas, I think it was plus 110. Loran Douglas just has crazy power. When he's fighting these guys that aren't as skilled as him and he knows it, he lets it go. Like he doesn't care, even if he's out of range. Like, and he's just like on the edge of range, he lets it go. Like he'll miss big, you don't care. And yeah, that crazy, crazy right hand, that jab. He was landing that jab, strong jab on Julian Erosa. He knocked him down probably, or back, not always down. He knocked him against the cage probably 3 times before he found the finish. And all respect to Julian Erosa for hanging in there. He's from the area. He didn't want to lose like that in Seattle. But Loran Douglas is absolutely an elite striker. I'd love to see him tested against a mid-level grappler at featherweight. Let's see if I can find the UFC rankings for featherweight real fast. Yeah, okay. So I'd like to see him tested against a guy who can grapple just outside of the rankings Can you click on featherweight and look at athletes? Featherweight roster. Okay, so there's a lot of guys who are the Korean Zombie's not even in the UFC anymore. What are we doing? I'd like to see him. Trying to see here. Who's somebody that's capable of grappling? Ooh, I mean, that'd be fun, but I don't know if I love it. So my pick for his next fight is not Sean Woodson because Sean Woodson's just outside the UFC rankings right now. But that's my next fight if he wins against a grappler. I want to see him fight a grappler who's just outside the rankings or a little bit like maybe like the 30s to 40s range. And then I want to see him fight Sean Woodson for a lengthy striker matchup, see if he can put a guy out who's difficult to get to. And then I want to see him fight a ranked fighter. That's what I want to see personally because Lorenz Douglas can be pushed soon. This dude is an absolute stud. He was putting it on Julian Rosa. He KO'd that guy in the first round of the Contender Series. Cameron, maybe I think is his name. I can't even remember. And then he just stayed out of the way of the big shots and made it look really easy. And that's what you want out of a young prospect. He deserves a guy that can grapple next. I want to see him try to defend some takedowns and maybe even offensively grapple. And then after that, give him a guy like Sean Woodson. I want to see him put a guy out who's difficult to get to. And then we build him from there. Michael Chiesa, his retirement fight in Seattle. He wanted to fight in Seattle last year. It happened this year. They threw him in Seattle. In a good spot, a featured bout. Nico Price stepped in on like a few weeks' notice, a week notice. Had been KO'd 7 weeks prior. I liked the Michael Chiesa KO line midweek. It was at like plus 1300, got bet down to plus 900 quick. I put it in a bet at plus 900. And then I just because of the lack of Nico Price's chin anymore, I felt like if he landed any significant shots, it might put him out. And I felt like that was worth the wager. And then I put Michael Chiesa on the points on most of my bets, and that was obviously gonna hit. Um, just a clean fight for Michael Chiesa. I'm really happy for him. Got his farewell. His wife was in the front row. His kids and his parents were in the front row, just like of the stands. And I just feel really happy for him. A guy who's very smart, breaking down the game, a high school wrestling coach for a long time, really involved in the UFC community, in the fight community, and the wrestling community. Just a great overall guy. Love seeing him on the analyst desk. Um, yeah, just deserved a good farewell, and probably one of the best farewells of all time. Him and Robbie Lawler both did it against Nico Price. Both of them deserve a lot of credit for having one of the cleanest retirement fights in history. Nico Price also retired, I heard. Really glad to hear that. No offense to Nico Price. I just don't want to see a guy continue to get hurt or choked week after or every time he fights. I know he has a lot of kids, a lot of people to provide for. I'm not going to say I want guys to. I don't want to say I want guys to call it quits because like you never know what they're fighting for. But yeah, I think it's a smart thing for Nico Price to call it a day. All right. The craziest sequence in UFC history. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if people are calling it that. Contender for KO of the year. Other people were making the joke. Also contender for submission of the year. I wouldn't say that, but Alexa Grasso with a 1-2 down the pipe. The left hand gets home, puts her down. The right hand, as she's coming in to jump the back, puts her out cold. She might have already been out cold. Alexa jumps the back, locks in a choke. And a lot of people were kind of theorizing like putting her out cold, unconscious, and then choking her for like the 3-4 seconds that she was able to before the ref jumped in there. That kind of put her into like a mini coma. Like she was able to breathe, able to like kind of move her eyes, but like couldn't move um for a few minutes. Like she's just out of it. And scary scenes. I've had two experiences in the US as a UFC fan where I thought somebody might have died. It was this one and Bryce Mitchell. Two really rough situations. Bryce Mitchell gets put out and starts seasoning on the mat. and Macy Barber gets put out and then choked. And tough to watch. I did pick Macy Barber. I thought she had all the tools to beat Grasso at this stage of Grasso's career, but Grasso with power. Power is a great equalizer in the UFC, and wow, that clean 1-2 just put her out quick. Congrats to Alex Grasso. Though. That was a badass women's fight and a great co-main. All right, main event: Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. Body bags. There's a reason they call him that. Body bags. He is one of those guys that I mean, let's look at round one. Izzy dominated total strikes. Izzy dominated significant strikes. Piper got a takedown, but Izzy was up quick. Um, yeah, Israel Adesanya was putting it on him technically on the feet. Piper was trying to get in for takedowns, a little sloppy. He was eating a lot of leg kicks. I don't know if they have a. No, they don't. I wish they had a more significant strike breakdown to leg kicks, but oh, here it is right here. Sorry. Yeah, 12 leg kicks Izzy hit. 9 of them in round 1. I mean, he was chewing up Piper's leg. Um, unfortunate for Izzy that he said he wanted to feel like he was in a fight, and if he's not here for wins and losses anymore, and if he's just here to be a guy that wants to put on fun fights and wants to be an entertaining UFC fighter and to continue to feel like a fighter, I respect that. I mean, there was a long time in his when he was holding the title, he talked about not having the ability to kind of express himself through his strikes and through his just like creativity in the cage because he had the belt, because he wanted to keep it, didn't want to risk it. And now, as a UFC fighter who's coming towards the end of his career and wants to put on fun performances and be a little more creative and take more risks, he can do that. He's not in a position where he has to win to continue to be a star. He's a star because of his legacy, because of the fights he's had in the past with the Pereira knockout, with the Paulo Costa knockout, with the Robert Whitaker performance, with the Kevin Gastelum performance. He doesn't have to win to be respected anymore. And he wanted to take a risk. He decided to pocket fight with Piper along the cage. Piper landed a few big shots, kind of made it a little difficult for Izzy to hang in there in the grappling because he was a little more out of it than he was previously. Um, Piper got it to the ground and was able to flatten Izzy out. And for a second there, it looked like he might lock in the choke. And I had a parlay that had one leg left. Piper by sub to pay 242. And unfortunate that they weren't able to choke him for me. But I like that stoppage because it's one of those ones where you call it a KO, TKO, but Izzy is not out, and I didn't want to see him get put out. So, congrats to Piper, great performance. If Izzy would have stuck to the 5-round game plan of just picking his shots and remaining to the game plan, I feel like Piper would have had a tough time in round 3, 4, and 5 dealing with those leg kicks and dealing with the distance and trying to grapple on that leg. But Piper had a sense of urgency, got in on him in round 2. They started pocket fighting a little bit, and then Piper was able to get it to the ground and finish the fight. So, yeah, congrats to him. Looking forward to see what he does against another top middleweight, like guy who's currently in his prime, because Piper was not technically good on the feet, but found a way to get it done. So I'm excited to see what's next for him. All right, let's go to the next UFC event. Moicano Duncan. I'm not going to give any picks on this episode. I will drop picks either as a post on my YouTube or, as a post on my YouTube, or I will make a separate video for picks. Right now, I really love, I like Ethan Ewing. I love Tommy McMillan, but he's a huge favorite. And I love Osman Bukayev. I think later in the week, you'll be able to find point lines on Tommy McMillan and on Azamat Bukoyev that will get their lines down. And Ethan Ewing, I might take as just a separate bet, maybe as a KO bet, because this Estevam is unbeaten, but I don't think he's on the level of a guy like Ethan Ewing. I'll give you my Combat Betslip review from this past week. We lost $5.03 on a $15 day. So not really massive losses, just didn't quite hit a few of my bets. Macy Barber -3.5 and Joe Piper by KO did not hit, obviously. And unfortunately, it was a plus 750 parlay. Um, paid 42.55, didn't hit. Alexa Thainara money line, Terrence McKinney and Kyle Nelson under 1.5, and Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson. I had money line Chase Hooper. So Alexa, stop. And then that was a $5 parlay to pay 10.55. Didn't hit. And lastly, Michael Chiesa -7.5 and Loran Douglas money line. I was wanting to put the KO line in there, but I just didn't want Juicy J to hang in there in his home state and try to grapple him a little bit and just lose an ugly decision. So like Loran win, but like an ugly decision for Juicy J just hanging in there in his hometown. So I went money line to make sure that if I did lose my other bets, I would hang around even, only $5 down. 9.97 that one paid, that one hit, and let me look. So we're down from 73.59 positive to 68.56 positive. And yeah, we'll see what we can do this next week. I have a few leans. I'm going to do a little bit of film study on a few guys, see if I find anything else I absolutely want to bet on. But a lot of these guys I'm just not super familiar with. I know at least Pereira. I know Trayshawn Gore. I know Barbosa. Uh, Delano I've heard of. I probably watched him fight once or twice and just don't remember. Brent Cerbera, I know. Abdul Rahman Yakayev, I've heard of. Rina Jones Doba, Tabitha Ricci. Obviously, I've heard of all these guys up top. But I don't know what to do about this fight. This fight is kind of one of those fights where I feel like Verna will just win, but is she aging? I need to do a little film study, a little age study, a little bit of breakdown study, see who's better in what positions. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. I think that moving forward, I will let you guys know exactly what I like this week. That was one of the best UFC events of the year, in my opinion. I just love whenever a card in a city that they don't always visit yearly. I mean, they have the last 2 years, but years before that had been a while for Seattle. So yeah, I'm just excited that these small markets get these banger cards. I'm hoping that they come back to Kansas City later this year and we can get a banger card. But I guess they had come in April back to back years, so probably not coming this year. But yeah, incredible UFC Seattle. Looking forward to this week's Apex. Looking more forward to the week after that, where Yuri, let's go for that Prohaska fights Carlos Olberg, Tatsuro Taira, and Josh Van. What's the heavyweight fight? Hokit and just click here. Hold on. We're gonna take a look at that one. Let's take a look at the whole card. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Jerry Proska, Carlos Overberg, Van and Tyra, Blades and Hokit, Reyes and Walker, Mirzakanov and Costa, Pitbull and Pico, Swanson and Landwehr, Gamrot and Esteban Ribovics, Kevin Holland and Randy Brown. I mean, these are all bangers. Everyone but this one, in my opinion. No offense. Yeah, gonna be a banger few weeks. And we'll see you later this week. I'll let you guys know what I'm gonna decide to bet on. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.